practitioner with PhD in nursing, and I have worked in pediatric endocrinology about 112 years. So we're going to talk today a little bit about some of the pearls and pitfalls of dealing with diabetes in kids. I'm sure you know there are none, but anyway. One of the issues that comes up is why your child got it. And if I were a parent, that would be a question I would just always kind of try to figure out. And whose fault is it? Well, the answer is it's nobody's fault. But when kids are diagnosed initially, sometimes there's a little bit of kind of blaming going on, like, well, it's not in my family, or, well, so-and-so in his family or her family has it. Well, actually, we know that diabetes happens to people who are genetically predisposed to have it, that the genetic tendency has come down from the family, through the family members, and this genetically predisposed child is exposed to something that then eventually they develop type 1 diabetes. But it's nobody's fault. And a lot of times parents will say there's nobody else in our whole family anywhere on either side that has it. Well, somewhere that genetic predisposition got passed down. But kids need reassurance. It was nothing they did, because kids tend to think that things happen to them because of their behavior. That I did this or I did that, or I ate too. My grandmother who had diabetes would always tell me, if you eat too much candy, you're going to get diabetes. So I have been testing that out through my lifetime, and so far I haven't gotten it. But we know with type 1, that's not the case. It's not related to eating too much candy. And it's not, not related to any behavior that they had. Kids go through stages of grief, just as you as parents go through stages of grief. Initially it's like, I don't believe this is possible. I just think it's something else. And they go into that honeymoon phase, and it's like, I don't think they have it. The doctors are wrong. You get very angry that the child has it. You get very depressed. You deny it. You do all those stages of grief. And you go through little periods where you think, okay, I can deal with this. And then the first thing you know, you're upset again, or you're depressed again, down again, or whatever. And the cycle goes round and round. But the kids go through the same thing. So you have to recognize that and help them with it. So we don't know why it happens to some kids. We don't know that identical twins, only 50% of them may get it, which is really amazing, because who's more genetically identical than identical twins and is susceptible to the same environmental influences, and yet only 50% will get it. So there's so much about it we don't know. But as parents, your attitude makes all the difference. And I'm so sorry that one of my newly diagnosed families is not here today, because I shouldn't say newly diagnosed, it had a few years, but the mother says that since this child developed this as a 10-month-old, she has been very angry that she has it, and very upset that she has it, and acting out and all this sort of stuff. This 10-month-old didn't know anything when they were 10 months old about diabetes. That kid has gotten their attitude about this from somewhere, and I'm kind of suspecting the parents. And I'll tell you, I had two 2-year-olds that were diagnosed on the same day. They were in the same room. And just to let you know, because parents always wonder about how high can the blood sugar get, and it's dangerous. Both these little boys had blood sugars over 2,000 at the time of diagnosis. They were not in a coma. They were sick, but they were not in a coma. One had like 2165 and the other one I don't remember, but their blood sugars were all over 2,000. They were in the same room, and you could really see the difference. On one hand, one mother really made things into a game, let the child participate, all that kind of stuff, and that kid to this day is doing really well. The other mother didn't want her kid to have it, didn't want to do the shots, didn't want to stick his finger. Everything was a major ordeal, and that child is still struggling with diabetes. They would have to chase him around the house and 4 people hold him down for the injections. So what that illustrated to me was the attitude of the parents toward the whole thing makes a tremendous difference. And if you impart to your children that we can handle this, this is doable, this can be done, it's okay, they will have the same kind of attitude. So, the kids' behavior does mimic their parents. Now, you also want to emphasize the positive. I know you think that there aren't any, but there really are. One of the things is that the whole family gets healthier. The whole family eats better, usually, than they used to, with the exception of the occasional family that will still stock the house with ding-dongs and ho-hos and all this kind of stuff. And you say, nobody needs this. Just take that away. I don't know about you, but if it's in my house, I'm going to eat it. So, just take that away. But the whole family usually lives healthier. The other thing is it's controllable. What you do makes such a difference, not only in their day-to-day blood sugars, but in the overall outcome, in their, complications or lack thereof later on, how they deal with life, everything. You can make a big difference, and it is controllable. So in so many things that kids get, it doesn't matter what you do. The kid is going to have the outcome they're going to have. But in diabetes, what you do makes a tremendous difference. And my favorite is you can always blame your child's behavior on the blood sugar. You can always say, well, they're really being bratty because they're low, or they're high, or something. I had to live with the fact I had really miserable children. They didn't have diabetes, and I had nothing whatever to blame it on except their father. Okay, dealing with blood sugars. I don't care if your child is, well, if they're 20, they're probably not living at home. But as long as they're living at home, you need to review their blood sugars on a regular basis. I always ask parents, do you ever look at their meter? Well, no, they're old enough to do this themselves. Right, and they're old enough not to do this themselves. So you think everything's hunky-dory, you say, how is your sugar? Oh, it's fine, and life goes on. Well, no, it might have been fine day before yesterday. They might not have checked it in the meantime. So you need to go back and look at that little meter from time to time. It puts in the date and time, and it will tell you what's been going on. And if you see patterns of highs or lows, then you need to let us know so we can adjust some things. You also want to note the time, the date, the values when they're not doing it, because all these little meters have it. A lot of times the dates and the times will be wrong, and then you really don't know what's going on. The other thing I mentioned is units of measurement. I have a kid who's a frequent flyer in the ICU, DKA, comes in all the time. And the mother, who's a teacher and a very bright woman, has, checks the meter all the time and says, I downloaded the numbers, the numbers are right, his numbers are always normal. Why is he in DKA all the time? He's not missed his shots, and she's right on top of him. Come to find out, these little meters, measure in two measurements. They measure in mg/dl, milligrams per deciliter, or they measure in millimoles. It'll say mmO/dl down in the corner in little letters. If it's in millimoles, the numbers will be much lower, like about by a factor of 17 lower than another number. So check your unit of measurement. When we actually went back and looked at this kid's measurement, all of a sudden I just thought, oh my gosh, he's been measuring in millimoles. Now, he probably didn't do that on purpose. You can change how it's set up, but it's not easy to change because it's built into the manufacturer. So he was very, very clever and figured out he could do this. Or he did it accidentally. Or the ones from Europe are always calibrated in millimoles. So, check that out. 99% of smart children will fake their blood sugar readings. I swear to you, I don't care how wonderful your child is. I'm a mom. I have kids. I know I can't trust them. I love them, but I can't trust them. They will fake it. They will write down, it's 387. I'll just write down 217. Or I'll write down something else. Because if they know that their parents is going to go through and look at their little book or look at their records, like, well, I don't want them on my case, so I'll just kind of lower that a little bit. Well, you can't fake an A1C. So when the A1C comes out to be 12 or 13%, you know that something's been going on somewhere. But it's the really bright kids, it's the straight A students that tend to do it the most. Why? Because they cannot control their blood sugar. There are so many things that affect blood sugar. Hormones, insulin, food, exercise, stress, illness, you name it, growth. All those things affect blood sugar. You are not a pancreas. You sitting out here cannot absolutely control what your blood sugar is at this moment in time. Kids can't do it either. And especially when they're teenagers, it's really, really hard. So they're used to, if I study really hard, I'll get an A, I'll do well. Or if I do extra credit, I'll get an A, I'll do well. They're used to that. I can control this. I can make a difference. And they know that if they give insulin and if they exercise and they eat right, it does make a difference. But it's still not the number they're looking for, especially those ones that really strive for perfection or the best score or whatever. So they will be the ones that, okay, they'll just write down the other numbers. So you have to help the child understand what that value means. I always tell kids it's like a speedometer on a car. If I'm driving down